Eva Sinclair's life had always been one of opulence and privilege. At 20 years old, she had everything most people only dreamed of: a luxurious mansion in the heart of Toronto, expensive cars, private tutors, and vacations in the most exclusive resorts. Yet, despite all the wealth and luxury, Eva felt a void. The glittering world of high society and the endless parties her parents organized often seemed shallow and unfulfilling. What Eva longed for wasn't a life of lavish indulgence, but something deeper, something that gave her life purpose. What she found solace in was snooker. It was a game that had first caught her attention when she was 14. At a dinner party hosted by her father, Eva had wandered into the family's game room, where a snooker table stood in all its glory, bathed in soft light. Intrigued, she watched an older cousin play, and something about the careful placement of the balls, the sound of the cue stick against them, and the strategy behind every shot captivated her. That night, she stayed up late reading about snooker, studying the rules, and learning the history of the game. From that moment on, snooker became Eva's escape, away from the expectations of being a Sinclair, away from the world of wealth. Snooker was where she found freedom. She joined her high school snooker team with high hopes. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to take her passion to the next level. But there was a problem. Eva's high school team was not good. In fact, they were terrible. Every local tournament, every state-level competition ended in crushing defeat. Eva had become used to losing, but it wasn't the sting of defeat that hurt the most. It was the disappointment in her teammates' eyes. They saw her not as a fellow player, but as the privileged girl who could never understand what it truly took to win. Her teammates, most of them from humble backgrounds, had little faith in her. And even Eva, despite her natural talent, couldn't shake the feeling that their resentment was justified. They saw her expensive clothes, her flawless technique, and they could hardly see past it. Eva often practiced alone, perfecting her shots, but the victories she craved never materialized. "I know I can do this," Eva would often tell herself as she stared at the table in the quiet of the empty school gym after hours. Yet no matter how many hours she dedicated to perfecting her game, it never seemed to be enough. Eva's parents, both successful in their respective fields, had always encouraged her to pursue her passions, whether it was art, history, or even fashion. But snooker was something different. They didn't quite understand the depth of her passion for the game, nor did they take her dreams seriously at first. But Eva was persistent. She'd often invite her mother and father to watch her play, but they always seemed distracted, more focused on their business dealings than on her efforts. It wasn't until one evening, as she was cleaning up after another disappointing tournament loss, that her father, Arthur Sinclair, noticed the change in her. "You know, Eva," he said, sitting across from her in their lavish dining room, his eyes softened by concern, "I've been thinking a lot about this snooker thing of yours. I see how much it means to you, how much time you put into it, but I also see how discouraged you are after every loss." Eva remained silent, staring down at her half-empty plate. She had always tried to hide her frustration from her parents, but it was impossible to ignore the ache in her heart. No matter how hard she tried, the team seemed to fail at every turn. "Maybe it's time you had the right kind of help," her father continued, his voice low and thoughtful. "What do you mean?" Eva asked, looking up from her plate. "I mean, we're not just going to sit back and watch you fall short of your dreams. You've worked hard, and I want to make sure you have every opportunity to succeed." Eva blinked in confusion. "What do you mean, Dad? I don't want handouts. I just want to play better, to be better. I just want to win." Arthur paused, looking at his daughter with something approaching understanding. "I've arranged for you to train with one of the best snooker players in the world, Roonie Sullivan. He's agreed to mentor you and prepare you for the national championship." Eva froze, her breath catching in her throat. "Roonie," she whispered, her heart pounding. "You mean the Rocket? The best snooker player of all time?" "Yes," her father said with a smile. "He's agreed to coach you." We're flying him in from England next week. He's that good, Eva. If anyone can take your game to the next level, it's him." Eva could hardly believe what she was hearing. Roonie, her idol, would be coaching her. He had been a legend in the snooker world for as long as she could remember. His graceful yet aggressive play style, his ability to read the table like no one else, had made him a household name. If she could learn from him, there was no limit to how far she could go. "Dad, I don't know what to say," Eva whispered, overwhelmed with emotion. "You don't have to say anything. Just be ready to work hard," Arthur replied with a wink. "You've got this, Eva." The day Roonie arrived in Toronto was one Eva would never forget. She stood nervously at the airport, clutching her cue case, her palms sweaty. When Roonie appeared, he seemed effortlessly cool and collected, his casual demeanor hiding the intensity that lay within him. He was nothing like the intimidating champion she had imagined. He was warm, approachable, and surprisingly down to earth. "You must be Eva," he said, shaking her hand firmly. "Heard a lot about you." Eva's mind raced. Had he really heard about her? The girl whose team had never won a tournament? "Yes, it's great to meet you," she said, trying to hide the nerves in her voice. Roonie smiled. "No need to be nervous. We're here to work." "So, are you ready?" Eva nodded, but inside, she felt both excited and overwhelmed. She had watched videos of Ronnie's games, studied his tactics, and admired his ability to make the most difficult shots seem effortless. And now, he was going to teach her. The training sessions were intense. Roonie pushed Eva harder than she had ever been pushed in her life. Every day, he challenged her to refine her technique, to find the flow in her game. They worked on everything, from perfecting her break to mastering the art of controlling the cue ball's position. Roonie was relentless. He demanded focus, precision, and resilience. And Eva, despite her initial doubts, was determined to meet his standards. "You've got a lot of talent, Eva," Roonie would often say as they spent hours on the table. "But talent alone won't win you the championship. It's all about mentality. The game isn't just about the shots. It's about the headspace you're in when you're playing." There were days when Eva felt like giving up. There were days when the pressure of training and the thought of facing the best players in the country was too much. But Roonie never let her quit. He pushed her, encouraged her, and believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. "You've got the heart of a champion," he told her during one of the hardest training days. "Don't let your past define you. Show them what you're capable of." As the national championship drew closer, Eva's confidence grew. Her technique was sharper, her focus unshakable. For the first time, she felt like a true contender. No longer was she the girl who had to prove herself because of her wealth. She was a player in her own right. The day of a national snooker championship arrived, and Eva stood at the table, the weight of the moment sinking in. The noise of the crowd seemed distant, as though muffled by a thick fog. All she could focus on was the game. The green felt, the neatly arranged balls, the cue stick in her hands. All felt familiar now. This was where she belonged. As the tournament unfolded, Eva's poise and skill shone through. Round after round, she dispatched her opponents with ease. Every shot she made felt like an extension of herself. Calm, controlled, and full of purpose. Roonie watched from the sidelines, a satisfied smile on his face as his pupil exceeded even his expectations. The final match was a culmination of everything Eva had worked for. The hours of practice, the sacrifices, the moments of doubt, and the unwavering belief that she could do it. She was up against the reigning champion, a skilled player from Montreal who had won the title for the past 3 years. The pressure was immense, but Eva didn't flinch. The game was intense, each shot meticulously planned, each ball pocketed with precision. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, watching in awe as Eva and her opponent traded blows. But as the final ball rolled into the pocket, Eva's heart soared. She had done it. She had won the National Snooker Championship. Standing on the podium, the weight of the trophy in her hands, Eva realized that the true victory wasn't just the title. It was the transformation she had undergone. From a girl who had struggled to find her place, to a champion who had defied the odds, Eva Sinclair had proven that dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed, were worth chasing. And with that, her journey as a snooker champion had only just begun. As Eva stood there, holding the National Snooker Championship trophy in her hands, she realized the magnitude of everything she had overcome. The victory was not simply a personal achievement, nor was it about the fame that came with the title. It was about the journey, the endless hours of practice, the relentless push beyond her own doubts, and the realization that true greatness wasn't determined by one match or one tournament, but by the unwavering commitment to improvement. The crowd erupted into applause, but Eva barely heard them. Her mind replayed every single moment of her transformation. Those early days when she had struggled to connect with her teammates, the painful losses that had made her question her worth as a player, and the transformative weeks spent under the tutelage of Roonie. She owed so much to him, not just for refining her technique, but for teaching her something far more valuable: resilience. Her parents were in the front row, beaming with pride. Her father's eyes were moist, his expression one of sheer admiration. For the first time in a long while, Eva felt a sense of belonging, not to her wealth or status, but to something far greater: her own identity. She had earned this victory, and no amount of money or privilege could have given it to her. As she held the trophy aloft, Eva looked at her teammates, who had stood by her through the lows and celebrated the highs together. This victory wasn't just hers, it was theirs. Their shared bond, their growth as individuals and as a team, had turned them into champions in the truest sense. "Roonie," Eva said softly as he approached her after the match. He smiled, giving her a knowing nod. "You've done more than just win, Eva. You've become the player you were always meant to be." Eva smiled, her heart full. She had finally realized that the greatest victory of all was not just in triumphing over others, but in conquering the self-doubt that had once held her back. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the incredible world of snooker players and stories. If you're as passionate about the game as we are, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a shot. Do you have a favorite snooker legend or story you want to see featured? Drop it in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep hustling, keep aiming, and remember, on the green felt, every game has the power to make you a legend.